think we're live. There will be no cover today because my streaming service is terrible. Let's just make sure it working. Alright, is it working? Test. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the streaming service is being glitchy, so we have to resort to something else. So that means I have to do this on my phone. And frankly, yeah, I don't want to do it on my phone, and I don't have a camera. So instead of just giving you a background, it's just not going to be anything. But that is okay, ladies and gentlemen. That is a-okay. Because we are still going to have the podcast, even though it's a black screen. And we're just going to go through it. Why not? I will figure out something in the future, but this is what we got for now. I didn't have much time to get this thing up, so this is what we got. But we have the NFL playoffs. It's gonna be wild. There is some notable, like, we're gonna say the predictions for last. Okay, guys, we're switching it up. We're switching it up, and there's a lot of news, right? There's a lot of roster changes before the playoffs, I guess you could say. And a lot of injuries, including most of the Buffalo Bills. Like, we got the Ravens. Mark Andrews is not going to be playing against the Texans. They're going to let him rest up a bit, I guess. Sure. The Falcons interviewing Bill Belichick at the head coaching position. And they're basically interviewing every single top coach. So, the Falcons are going to get a good coach. They also interviewed Jim Harbaugh. And yeah, the Ravens sent Melvin Gordon back down to the practice squad. And then you got the Bills. Their injury lineup is crazy. Gabe Davis is out. Stephon Diggs is questionable, I believe, yeah. Many other people are questionable. Rasul Douglas is questionable. Taylor Rapp is ruled out. And then their punter is questionable, for goodness sake. That's when you know it's getting bad. Their whole linebacker core and cornerbacks could be out, and their wide receivers could be out. It's crazy. The Panthers are interviewing for head coaching positions. Bears doing the same. The Lions, Sam Laporta is questionable, which is a concern, but I think he'll probably be able to play. And Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney are questionable. Sky Moore is out, sorry. And then the Raiders have officially signed Antonio Pierce to a deal. And congrats to that guy, man. He deserves that job, and I think the Raiders could be a deadly team in a couple years. The Chargers interviewed the Cowboys defense coordinator Dan Quinn for their head coaching position. Patriots just interviewing about every position they're not interviewing offense coordinators, defense coordinators, right, or previous head coaches at all. They interviewed the Rams special teams coach, the Patriots linebacker, or the Saints linebacker coach, and the Broncos DB coach Interesting. The Seahawks, nothing really. They interviewed our coach. A lot of interviewing. I think we're going to skip over the interviewing unless it's big. And then some injuries. Shaquille Barrett is questionable for the Bucks. That's it for the injury wise. Yeah. It's going to be crazy. Divisional round. I'm going to be watching this game on my feet. Ravens fan. It's boom or bust at this point, right? And it could definitely be a bust, but I don't know. The Ravens are almost 10-point, or sorry, the Texans are almost 10-point underdogs, which is wild. Lamar Jackson, MVP numbers, putting rushing numbers up, putting passing numbers up. Zay Flowers almost had 900 receiving yards. Nico Collins doing insane. Devin Singletary doing really good. CJ Stroud doing really good. That game against the Browns was amazing. It was amazing. By the way, Marlon Humphrey is also out for that game. But it's amazing. And Texans, Ravens should be one of the best playoff matchups besides the Chiefs Bills game. And I don't know what to say. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. We'll recap what happened last week because a lot of things happened. I went like 4-6 on my picks, I think. The Texans creamed the Browns. Joe Flacco went into a coma or something. And I guess once you're about, how old is he? Really old. Old. 39. You don't care at this point. You have nothing to lose. So he is just chucking that ball deep. And Joe Flacco, it was pretty fun to see his career revive almost. I mean, he'll probably be out by next year, but it was just funny. He threw a lot of picks, but man, I don't think he didn't have a game under 300 yards passing. And that game against the Texans was the only game that he didn't throw at least 3 touchdowns, which is wild. And I think it was just a funny experience for Joe Flacco. And the Browns, they had a good story going. But the Texans, man, they played out of their minds. And, I got this pick wrong. All right, I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong. All right. I thought the Texans were not going to do as good as they did at all. I thought the Texans were going to lose this game. I thought the young team was just not going to get it done. I thought it just wasn't going to happen for the Texans because how young this team was, how many. I was like, man, they could win a Super Bowl in a couple years, but they're going to get first rounded. And, they did not. 45-14, they came in, they whooped the Browns' tails. The Browns, didn't have a bad offensive game. I'll give them that. They had most of the possession. They had a lot of yards. They had a lot of first downs. The turnovers, yes, that had a big factor. But the defense was not there, and I think the Browns' offense just couldn't get down the field. They kept, blowing it at the end, it seemed like, on every drive, right? Just wasn't going their way at that point. And, props to the Texans, man. That was a good win by the Texans, and they look like a scary team all of a sudden. Next, you got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Miami Dolphins. I completely forgot who I said to win this game. But all I know is I picked the Chiefs in my bracket because I saw the weather conditions. There is no way on earth that the Miami Dolphins win in negative 20-degree weather. There's no way on earth any Florida team, any South team wins in that conditions against Kansas City in negative 20-degree weather. That's not happening. Dolphins had a bad game, but what can you really blame them, right? Mahomes' helmet broke, for heaven's sake. It was that cold. And it was just insane. Chiefs, 409 yards of total offense, 25 first downs, only one turnover, 34 minutes of possession. And, Mahomes had a good game, I guess. He didn't light it up, but he had a good game. Tua just couldn't get nothing with just every pass as a check down. Rashee Rice had a beautiful game. Pacheco had a really good game as well. And it just seemed like the Chiefs game from start to finish, right? Start off 10-0, 10-7, and then bam, no more points for the Dolphins. Chiefs take the win 26-7. And, Chiefs coming in this game against Buffalo now. It could be a really good matchup, but it's the Chiefs. Okay? It's the Chiefs. Do I see them getting a win? Maybe. But it's the Chiefs, and I just don't see it happening at that point, right? They're a good team, right? They're a good team. I'm just kind of saying things now, but they're a really good football team. But the Chiefs have not done well in the past couple games besides that game against the Dolphins, right? And they are the Chiefs, so you gotta give them credit. They could do a lot of things. They could pull off a lot of things. But I don't know. Next, we got the upset of a lifetime. The Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. And man, did Jordan Love go crazy in that game, man. I think, did he have a perfect passer rating? I don't know. I mean, if not, he was pretty close. The Cowboys had 510 yards of offense, but 32 points, so it wasn't the offensive fault. It was just a bad defensive performance and an amazing performance by Jordan Love and their offense. Aaron Jones, 3 touchdowns, 118 yards. Joshua Dobbs, 150 yards, 1 touchdown. And it just, Dak Prescott threw 2 picks. He threw up 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he had to throw 60 passes to do that. 60. Jordan Love threw 3 touchdowns, 272 yards, only throwing 21 passes and made 16 out of those 21. And the Packers just felt like a way more balanced team. They felt like they had a game plan going into this, and it worked, right? It worked. It didn't matter. After the first half, the game was done at that point. It was 28-7. And no matter what the Packers did, or no matter what the Cowboys did, it wouldn't be enough. That was their first home loss of the season. It was the first time a 7 seed had won the game. And I'm not surprised because only the Cowboys could do that. Seriously, though. Only the Cowboys could be that bad to lose in that type of game. Next, you got the Los Angeles Rams versus the Detroit Lions. And, man, it was a crazy game. It was a crazy game. You can't say the Rams did bad in that game. Jared Goff lit it up. So did Matthew Stafford. Gained 367 yards, 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua had a great game. And it was just a good performance by both teams. And, it came down to 1 point, and I had the Rams winning. They were a hot team going into this game. And you got to give Lions credit for sure. And I never thought, and I should have thought of it, that the Lions haven't won a playoff game in 32 years. Don't you think that the Lions are going to go into that game so hyped up, so confident? The fans, the stadium, home field advantage will be crazy during that. And the Lions are a hot team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go in, beat the Bucs, go to the championship game, and beat the Niners at this point. That's how confident I am for the Detroit Lions. And I think they had a great game, a great win, and yeah. Next, we're going to go to our Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens, and both of these teams, man, are really good teams. Texans had a really good win. Texans have won the last 5 out of 4, and the Ravens have done the same. Besides, I mean, the Steelers lost, so can you really blame them for that? The Ravens are hot. The Texans are really hot as well. Both these teams, hottest teams in the league, in my opinion. Besides the Lions, or well, I don't know. Really hot teams. And Texans coming off of a good win against the Browns. Ravens coming off of a bye. You got to know, does the Ravens have their bye struggles like they have had? But you got to think, man, the Ravens are hyped up, right? Because it's a Super Bowl or bust type of situation at this point. And if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you're going into this game and you're going to go full force. The crowd is going to go nuts after 2 disappointing seasons back to back, right? The crowd is going to go nuts, and the Ravens are going to be ready, and they're going to be hungry, and they're going to go into that game, and they're going to play, they're going to fight hard, and they're going to play well. Texans, young team, inexperienced. Again, I'm going to say it again. I know it was wrong the first time, but you're going against the Ravens, who are 6-3 at home. Not the best home, but the Texans are 4-4 at away, which is not promising whatsoever. But the Ravens, remember, their home losses were one before they got it all together. 2 of those were, and the other one was against Steelers, against backup. So really a 6-2. And man, it's just wild. Frankly, as a Ravens fan, I loved when we were away because we almost were undefeated at away, which is nuts, right? But the Baltimore Ravens, right? They've got it together. Now it's just, are they gonna have a little bit of a struggle in this game? Because if they get past the divisional round, in my opinion, it could be smooth sailing. The divisional round could be the hardest game for them at this point, right? As a Ravens fan, I'm going to be talking about this game for a very long time. And both teams have done really well this season. Both teams have put up amazing numbers. The Ravens' defense, though, is what could really bring it home, right? The Ravens' defense is deadly. It's deadly. And I think even if Lamar starts slumping at the start, which when they had their bye and played the Rams, the offense was not slumping. The defense a little bit, but the offense was not slumping. And I think the defense didn't have Kyle Hamilton that game against the Rams a bit, I believe, yeah. And when they have Kyle Hamilton, they've been lights out. And when they have their healthy defense, they've been lights out. And they have a healthy defense. And so even if the offense is not on amazing pace, I think the defense could let up less than 17 points. Lamar only has to get like 2 touchdowns. Justin Tucker kick a couple field goals, and they win the game. All right? They win the game. And it's just going to be a hard-fought game, but I think the Baltimore Ravens win. I think it'll be close, but I think the Baltimore Ravens win this game. And it'll be insane, but I think the Baltimore Ravens win this game, man. Next, you got the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers. Man, Packers are 10-point underdogs. Jordan Love, the Packers coming off an amazing game. They have won 4 straight. Niners lost to the Ravens and lost to the Rams in the final weeks. They did bench their starters in the final week. But you got to think, man, Niners are a really, really good team. Brock Purdy is a really, really good quarterback. I don't care what anyone says. He is a good quarterback. He is not an MVP quarterback, but he is a good quarterback, which the 49ers can use with all their weapons to make a disgustingly good offense. And I think the 49ers, if they get together in the Super Bowl, they could wipe out whoever comes in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, amazing year. You know, Christian McCaffrey having one of the best years I've seen from a running back. And the Packers are a good team, right? The Packers are a good team. They're 7th seed. They've won many games. But the Packers, they're going against a completely different team. Sure, they crushed the Cowboys. But this is the Cowboys, right? It's an impressive win. I'll give them that. That was a very, very impressive win. But they're not a team like the Niners. And if you're the Packers, and as a 7th seed, you have the hardest way to get to the playoffs. Think of it. You have to beat the Niners. You beat the Cowboys. Now you got to beat the Niners. And then you probably have to beat the Lions. And then you have to beat a team like the Ravens or the Bills in the Super Bowl. And it is just wild, their schedule to get there. So I don't think the Packers could do it. I don't think they can pull it off. But I think the Packers will have a hard fight. And it will be a good win by the Niners. It'll be a close game. It'll be back and forth. But I think the Niners pull it out. Next, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Detroit Lions. And man, this is going to be a good game. But Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a beautiful game, right? Beautiful, beautiful game. But now they're going into Detroit. The Buccaneers have had beautiful games. They've won the last 4 out of 5, right? They did lose to the Saints, but they crushed the Eagles. It wasn't even close. And the Lions also were in a close game against the Rams to get here. But the Bucs crushed the Eagles. And I know the Eagles have been slumping, but the Eagles are not a bad team. They're a playoff team. I think they might have some struggles next season. But Lions are a good team. The Buccaneers are a good team. And I don't want to cut any credit from the Buccaneers. Because if there was an NFC South team that makes the playoffs, which they really shouldn't, but if there was an NFC South team that makes the playoffs, it should be the Buccaneers. And I think this will be a good game, right? I think it'll be a good game. I think the Bucs deserve this spot to the divisional round. But, I think the Lions are too good. I know I said they're young, but Jared Goff is a veteran quarterback, and he could lead that young squad to a big win. And I think Lions have a chance at the Super Bowl at this point. How good they're playing right now. Next and finally, we got the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Buffalo Bills or Chiefs are 2.5 underdogs. Josh Allen had a good season besides 18 interceptions. Oh, wow. James Cook, a beast. Stephon Diggs is questionable for this game. Rasul Douglas is questionable for this game. And they got a lot of pieces injured, the Bills. Kadarius Toney is questionable at this point. I think he just want to get him out. But the Chiefs, they were slumping, right? They were slumping, but they got 4 out of 5. They've got some good caliber wins. But they weren't against good teams. You got to remember this. They lost to the Raiders. Okay, they beat the Patriots. Wow, big win. They beat the Bengals by 8 against Jake Browning, who fell off, obviously. And then the Chargers, they beat them by 1 point. And then they beat the Dolphins. So the Chiefs have one of the easiest schedules, I think, in football. The Bills are, every week since week 13, have been one loss away from their journey being over. Every week. And every week they've pulled out a win. They beat the Cowboys. They barely beat the Chargers. They barely beat the Patriots. They barely beat the Dolphins. And then they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And, dude, it is nuts how good this team is. Okay? How much of a comeback they made. We thought the Bills were not making the playoffs. And here they are. And I think the Bills are the hottest team in football right now. And I think the Bills are going to go play at their home field and whoop the Chiefs, okay? I'm saying they are going to whoop the Chiefs. You could clip this all you want, but I think the Bills come in. I think it's a 14-point game. I think the Chiefs are not playing well right now. I think Mahomes is not himself, and I'm surprised he made a Pro Bowl because, let's be honest, CJ Stroud did way better stat-wise than Mahomes. He did way better in clutch moments, and he's been carrying that Texas teams. But you put Mahomes in the Pro Bowl. Mahomes has thrown maybe 2 touchdowns one interception every 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying Josh Allen has been doing good interception-wise either at all. He's been doing horrid. But man, it's just not a good season for Mahomes. And I know it's Mahomes. He's one of the most clutchest players in the league. You got Kelce. But this is not the Chiefs team. And I think the wide receiver thing is starting to bite him. Sure, they won a Super Bowl without him. But it's starting to bite him. And when you know this defense, the Chiefs defense is a really good defense, and it's 10 times better than the Chiefs offense, what are we thinking? Because the Buffalo Bills have a really good offense that could go against that defense, and then their defense is a really good defense, the Bills. So it could instantly just smother the Chiefs, and they're done. They're done. I think the Chiefs put up like 17 points. Bills will put up 31. Fine, that's my final score. So there you have it. There's your playoff predictions. That means the championship games will be the Lions and the Niners and the Ravens and the Bills, which would be really good to predict next week. A lot of things. Bill Belichick, as we know, they parted ways, aka he got fired. And he's a new job. And I don't know if Bill Belichick is that guy anymore, right? I think the drafting is really trying to hit him. Bill Belichick is a great coach. Nick Saban also retired, the greatest college football coach of all time. And you got to think here, there's now a big discussion who was the better coach, right? And Bill Belichick has won 6 Super Bowls in the pro, right? But Bill Belichick was nobody until Tom Brady came. And he was nobody when Tom Brady left. And he gave Tom Brady nobody for weapons unless it was like Randy Moss. They even got a quarterback to play wide receiver. It's just wild, right? It's just wild. And you got it, but Nick Saban has won more national championships than Bill Belichick's won Super Bowls. And sure, it's college football, but every 4 years, you have a completely different roster, a completely different coaching staff, and you have to continually keep bringing players in, continually keep bringing coaches in, and farming them. The coaches under Nick Saban are the farm system of the NFL. It's Nick Saban's offense and defense coordinators. And it's just wild to me. Nick Saban, he was old. He had to retire. I think Alabama will not be the same for many years, but Alabama could probably get another amazing coach because that's what Alabama does. I think it's just wild, to be honest. And it will be a great college football to see. New teams coming up. My boy Louisville. And coming in, and it will be competitive. It will be really good. I expect new national champions every year. SEC will be crazy. I think Alabama doesn't make the playoffs, 12-team playoffs next season. I think it's crazy, but Bill Belichick finding teams, Jim Harbaugh finding teams. I think it would be amazing if Jim Harbaugh, he's a cheater, came to Baltimore and took one of the defense or offensive coordinator positions because, let's be honest, they're probably going to lose Mike McDonald and maybe also Todd Monken. So, I think it'll be good. Bill Belichick is obviously in a head coaching position. He probably goes to the Falcons, I assume. But Bill Belichick, man, he's a good coach, right? And he's not going to go to the AFC at this point, right? Because he doesn't want to beat up on the Patriots. We'll see what happens if he's really lost it and he's not a good coach anymore. We'll see. People believe in him. I believe in him, but we'll see. All right, thank you guys for listening to the podcast, and it was exciting, right? Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I also am on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Music, Amazon and Apple Podcasts. Sorry. Make sure to subscribe to those so you can check it out. Make sure to turn on notifications so you can know next time I have a podcast and notify you. So thank you guys for watching, and peace out.